there it is.
Yeah, I figure I might as well.
Yeah, recording.
Shall I do it? Shall I do it, guys?
Do it.
Yeah, why not?
Do it. Do it.
Alright, so the word I was looking for unimportant was insignificant, but it could have been worthless, insignificant, irrelevant, immaterial, meaningless, inconsequential, negligible, useless, null, trivial, frivolous, unnecessary, besides the point, which is kind of besides the point because it's 3 words, not one, casual, frothy, indifferent, little, minor, I don't recall saying minor, whatever, minute, non-essential, nothing, nugatory, spelled N-U-G-A-T-O-R-Y, paltry, petty, I still don't know how to pronounce this, Picayune, P-I-C-A-Y-U-N-E, second rate, slight, trifling, zero, zilch, zip, inconsiderable, low ranking, of no account, of no consequence, and shoestring.
The shoestring still baffles me.
Synonyms for unimportant, everybody. Welcome to podcast number 7.
Yes, that is exactly what we were talking about. Insignificant things, apparently. No, anyway, this is a very spur of the moment podcast. Literally, I sort of suggested impromptu podcast, and here we are. Because the conversation turned to something that I thought was interesting. Because Person and Crash have opinions, and I think they're both wrong. But
it mainly whole thing spurred because MST went ahead and said, bosses are for surprise deaths, go hunt for more items moved, and then I was like, lol, nope, here's why I think no.
So yeah, that's pretty much the topic of this. We're going into, I guess, sort of hack design, in a way.
Not just hack design, it's kind of like game design in general.
Yeah, I guess it would be more like that.
Definitely.
So anyway, we have myself, and Crash Tour,
Yo.
and Person.
Hello.
And we would have had Grime, but he's taking a trip.
Yeah, he's
or
not
something.
He's not currently at home.
That's what he claims anyway. So, to get started off, we really didn't have many plans for this.
Yeah, I mean, we could read back the logs, but I mean, reading the logs would be a good way to start the conversation, I suppose, or start the podcast, the actual material. So okay, I guess if we want to go there.
So, yeah, probably. So I made the comment about the bosses. They're sort of jokingly, but not exactly joke. Bosses are, hey, here's a boss, go die. It's a boss, you should die. That's basically my whole thought on it.
It's a boss, you don't have enough items, go back, look for more items. But
exactly.
Where I have an issue with that is if you're on a first playthrough, which is usually casual, unless you're weird, dying to... Okay.
Yeah, because nobody sees Metroid hacking seems weird at all.
Oh wow.
What's it? But yeah, on a first playthrough, which is usually casual, dying to a boss is usually will happen once or twice, as Crash says later down on the logs a little bit, is okay. But if you're constantly dying because you're running across and you're under-equipped, because the stuff you would need is not exactly on your way there, and it's kind of hidden out of sight, like not just a little bit, but like decently out of sight, where the player would have to take their time to actually look for this before being able to have a significant chance of survival in the next 5 minutes. It kind of like not destroys, but like tampers with the flow of what the game was going on at that point or that time period of wherever they're at. So, another kind of thing I didn't touch on is that you could say that you could base a game around that, or like you can make the flow really choppy, but that's really stupid because then it's like a stop-go kind of thing, and when people play games, they usually want to just go unless there's good reason for them to take their time and do whatever they're doing to progress. Not just, I need to do this because I can't progress otherwise.
Oh, so you mean choppy gameplay like Other M?
Yeah,
With
well,
the pixel hunts. And
yeah, the pixel hunts are pretty annoying. But
the pixel hunts and the cutscenes and the, hey, I have to completely go into first-person mode in order to shoot this missile and
granted,
all that silliness.
Granted, RPGs and Super Metroid are completely different genres. The idea behind level grinding, it works in RPGs because you obviously, the bosses will be relatively difficult if you don't do it, but if you do it, the time pays off very easily. While in Super Metroid, you're not really grinding anything, you're more like scavenging, and any time that is spent that doesn't help you find anything turns into wasted time, whereas any time spent grinding in an RPG is usually rewarded with experience, level ups, skill boosts. So in other words, don't waste the player's time.
Yeah, usually in Super Metroid, the only thing you're ever grinding for is health or ammunition.
Yeah.
In which case, refill bugs.
Yeah.
Refill bugs are amazing.
They're quick and they're easy, and they usually give you what you want.
Yep.
Yes, but my thought with this, in conjunction with I don't even know what are words.
English.
4 in the morning.
Reference.com, let's go!
let's not do that again. But anyway.
Come on, Mr. Thesaurus.
Thanks. What was my thought? Something about bosses. Oh, okay, yeah. My idea
So glad you recovered
with this
that.
about bosses is I'm just going to use redesign as an example where you can do a casual playthrough, but you can miss a whole lot of items that way that are even just out in the open. So you can come across bosses, whatever, and they will destroy you because, hey, you didn't collect items. And even if you were doing it casually, you just didn't happen to go down this one path that had this missile here. There was an energy tank over here that was out in the open. You just didn't happen to go there. So stuff like that, I have no pity for the player. Go look.
I mean, there's a difference between, and I think redesign kind of, using redesign as an example still exemplifies this really well about having an item hidden, but not too far hidden, or like too far out of the way, and then something being really hidden. So I think in most cases redesign uses doors to kind of do this. So you see a door, you're like, wonder what's on the other side, and you go check it out. You either find that you can't progress, you pick up an item in there, or that it leads you to where you want to go, which is good because that's like a steady level of exploration, and there's not much time wasted because you find something out of it. Yeah, I mean, there might be the occasion or two where it's a loop all the way back around the area where we're like, well, crap, now I gotta backtrack because I can't go back the way I just came from because stupid shortcuts. But when you're hiding things, like a good example, let's say that Charge Beam in the original Super Metroid was hidden, instead of where it's at, it was hidden in the wall in Mama Turtle's room. Now, this is a rather extreme example, but most people aren't going to think that a really, really important and useful item is just going to be quite literally hidden in the face of a wall. So that's kind of...
Yeah. Or even if, in vanilla Super Metroid, if the path down to Charge didn't have the graphical hint.
Yeah, oh, yes, there you go. That's a good one, actually.
If it didn't have the graphical hint, then the player wouldn't notice that, hey, that looks weird.
You could almost argue to a very minute point that, hey, look at me, I'm using those reference words. You could argue to a very minute point that the player was kind of trained to check those kind of tiles, because previously in the long pink Prince Hall, there's a wall made out of those tiles that you bomb. But that's like a really far-fetched case. You have to be... Again, this is a great segue if nobody has anything else to say on the matter. Alright, well, it's kind of a good segue for teaching the player... Not teaching the player, but making the player feel like they're going in the right direction, and that they're not... and not leaving them completely and utterly lost. So...
Now, I have lots of things about this, but that's, I don't know, may not fit.
So, I feel in hacks. A hack is linear, in other words, straightforward, item A, item B, C, D, E, F, G, in order. I feel that that's kind of boring. I'm pretty sure most people do. This can be...
Thank you, Fusion.
Yeah. I mean, you can do certain things about it to make the game better, but item progression is a big part of Metroid, obviously. I like a little more openness. Super Metroid's really comfortable about that. But when you make it so that, I have item 1, 2, and 3, now I could go find 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 11 anywhere in the world, and I'm able to go to any of them right now. It's just, it's too much. Too much to search for too early.
Unless, well, maybe not unless, maybe this would be more of a qualifier that would help that. Because if they could find any of those other items after that, by extension that makes pretty much exploring anywhere new, you're going to find something new.
Yes.
So that wouldn't be too terrible. Because you're still going to new places and being rewarded for it.
Mm-hmm. But...
Even if it is a little daunting with, hey, there's now all these areas that I can go to.
Yeah. And building on the last topic, it gets annoying when this huge open world has these ridiculous secrets to find. Because, to me, it just feels like when I'm searching for secrets and I don't find anything, it's a big time waster. So for an example, kind of, I was playing Escape 2 the other night, still working on beating it. Last thing I picked up was high jump and speed booster. I explored for about 45 minutes, found nothing but a bunch of places I couldn't do anything in, and a missile pack. Needless to say, I stopped playing for a little while, and I still haven't picked it up since. So, if you're...
Yes,
Good.
you can leave your world way too open without actually letting the player go anywhere. Like, this is one of the comments I made, was, like, the item and boss thing, that's player's fault as far as I'm concerned. But with exploration, when you're making a hack, you can kind of guide the player, which the original game does very well. I mean, if I go somewhere, I collect something, I say, oh, I remember there was something I can use this with. So I go back, it's like I have super missiles, hey, there was a super missile dry pass, let's go back and check that. So I go back up there, I use my super missiles, and I can't do anything. Then it's like, what was the point of this? Like, if I need a grapple right after this, why have the super door there? Just let me go into the room, let me see I need grapple. Then I know I don't need to bother checking that till I have grapple, so...
Yeah.
I mean, you could... Things like that you may not think of, it's just like, oh, I want to lock this off until the player has such and such item. And then you immediately put in, or very shortly after that, put in another roadblock where they need yet another item. Really not much use there. And it's really misleading and doesn't let the player... I guess maybe they could find a missile pack or something laying around, but it's Missile packs really aren't that rewarding in Metroid.
No.
Let's be honest.
The most.
Or at least if there's going to be like another like in the super door before a grapple room kind of thing, and you don't have grapple yet, like put some like an optional grapple thing like before the super door that kind of hints at the fact that you'll need grapple before going right through there. That way, you know, it's not completely unhinted at.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that, well, you can really help with the player's experience with that. Just by making it maybe not too obvious, but you still kind of leading them in the general directions, like collecting super missiles instead of that super missile door back at the beginning. If that's just a blue door and I didn't go in it, I'm not going to automatically think, oh hey, there was a super door I missed. There was just a door which may or may not hold another super door, or a super door that blocks the path after that, so I might be more convinced to look around in the area around the super missile, or just go somewhere else entirely where the actual path may end up being.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of builds on something I meant to touch on last topic, but I mentioned, where is it? I'm going to be under-equipped. It needs to be apparent not by the boss, but the factors in the area. In which case, dealing with exploration, it's okay to give really obvious hints. I mean, hinting and obvious are subjective terms here. They're different to everybody. But if you can make something ridiculously obvious, like Crash said, you know, optional grapple blocks, hint, you should probably have grapple, it would likely help. Or, let's see, speed booster blocks which you could go around. Maybe not like easily around, but work your way around kind of like with some effort. A little nudge towards, hey, you don't quite have speed booster yet. So, when it comes to exploration, help the player out when you're designing whatever you're designing. If you're even designing an exploration-based game or hack, whatever, give the player hints. Like, if there's one thing that Super Metroid did really good, it is that. And if kind of a plug for someone else's video, or not even a video, the document published on Game Sutra, I think, The Invisible Hand of Super Metroid. Go read that, and there's a few videos of people on YouTube who talk about it. It might blow your mind at how simple it is. Maybe you've read it or not, or you haven't. But once you've seen it, you kind of have a different understanding of what we're talking about and how Super Metroid was designed. It's just kind of like, yeah, you can go here, which you should probably go here because you're a first-time player. But if you're not a first-time player, you can go other places. So ignore us. That kind of thing.
Right. And I am just going to say this right now to remind myself to put the link in the description to that article.
A good idea?
Definitely a good idea.
I just said that wrong. I said put the link to the description in the article. I just said that. Good lord.
This is what we get for recording this so early in the morning. Or late at night, depending on how you look.
Late for me. It's only 4:15 a.m.
Only 4, whatever.
I think it's early morning for you guys, though.
It is. Oh, man.
I'm at 3:15 a.m.
You and your
fuck.
central.
But I work second shift, so yeah,
Rebels.
without a cause.
But no, back to the point. Like, especially Escape 2. I don't want to turn this into an Escape 2 topic.
No.
But with that, I had help with it. And to me, the hack was really fun because I had help. And I sort of knew where I was going sometimes. Whereas if I had no help, I would have been completely lost in the hack, and I probably would have had another I would say, more YPR type experience, because the hack kind of has that same vibe in a way, where it's just,
Like most Japanese hacks.
sort of, yeah. I mean, really interesting stuff, but it's like exploring around. It's like, what in the world? Like, the one exploration thing that hack got right was the hints in the wreck ship.
Yes.
I think that's the only thing it's done right with exploration, honestly.
I'm so glad the hints in Wreck Ship to Fantoon were what they were. Otherwise, I would have stopped playing them when I got there.
Right, and that made it obvious, but honestly, I think you would probably agree with this person because you've been playing it. The wreck ship was probably one of the areas you enjoyed most because you actually knew where you were going.
Despite my lasting impression from Vanilla Super Metroid's Wreck Ship, yes. It is nice to know where you're going, especially since another gripe I had is gigantic open rooms, because it does this whole entire topic, but in one room, and not in the sense that you feel lost, or in the sense that there's too much room to move around. The fact that there's so much open space that nothing really stands out, so it's hard to catch a landmark in the room. I mean, yeah, you got your map, but it's just kind of, it's annoying to me. I don't know. It's just
unless you want the player to reference the map every 2 rooms.
Yeah.
There needs to be some markers on certain paths. Just the way the room's designed or something. I guess that like a smaller hack would have an easier time with that because I feel like, oh, it's smaller, so I can do more tile sets, make smaller areas. That makes these smaller sections easier to remember, so more memorable, so it's easier for the player to get around. I think that's an advantage a lot of smaller hacks have on large hacks.
So it's kind of like the thing with redesign where since the areas are so large, they sort of start to feel kind of samey as far as the level design and
Oh yeah.
visuals.
Yes, but I mean, at least with redesign, you have certain rooms that'll stick out, like the evil Ridley Tube room, or I don't know, room X filled with mock droids, or the giant pipe and sandfall room, rooms like that. Like, the area might start to feel very, very similar, and a few rooms may seem similar, but at least they stand out enough to characterize that portion of the map.
Yeah. It's not like Metroid 1
Oh.
where everything is literally very samey.
Yeah.
But hey, that's hardware limitations.
Can't hold it against them. They did well for their time.
Yeah, exactly.
All said, my opinion on the matter is, instead of waking up in the middle of the desert trying to find my way out, just like that, I would rather wake up in the middle of the desert with a compass and finding my way out. I mean, obviously, any sane person would. So that's just my take on the whole being lost in games. Actually, no, I have one more example, and I said this the other night. If anybody here has played Wind Waker, the original one on the GameCube, not the re-release on Wii U, you might remember the part after you beat the Tower of the Gods. You're just kind of thrown out back into your ship coming up from Hyrule. And I don't remember what they say, and they're just kind of like, alright, you're free to explore the ocean. Right, so, I have a bow and arrow now, and I have a stronger sword. What am I supposed to do? And you're kind of trained earlier in the game to stay away from this giant cyclone dude. So you're kind of like, that's a bad guy, let's not go towards him. Like, he will wreck my face. He will throw me across the world. So instead, you're like, for whatever reason, you're just kind of like curious. Let's see what happens if I fly into him. And you realize, oh, maybe I should with a bow. That's kind of goes against what you're taught a while ago. I mean, you don't really think about it. You just kind of roll into the typhoon or cyclone, and he comes down laughing at you, and then you get thrown across the ocean. Now you come back with a bow, you shoot him out. Good job, you figured that part out. Now what the hell do I do with this warp song? I can warp places, cool. Warp to every single place maybe to figure out what to do next? Sure, seems logical. Waste time doing that. Find the Queen of Fairies, awesome. She gives me fire and ice arrows. This is sweet. Now where do I use these? Out of 49 squares on the map, there are 2 tiles, 1 for each arrow that you have to use. Let's go find them. Sail, sail, sail some more, sail even more. Oh, hey, look, I found one. Got item inside. Oh, hey, look, I found the other one. Got item inside. Now we gotta go find 2 more islands that are completely unmarked. Holy crap,
Nice.
Nintendo. Come on. Probably the worst experience of being lost in a game I've ever found. I literally had to stop playing the game for an entire year until I picked up a Nintendo Power and read one thing about taking the arrow to the cyclone guy, and I was like, well, let's try it again, and eventually finished Wind Waker. But yeah, there's my very long rant against Wind Waker and being lost in video games.
Yeah. I think there's actually, let's see, if I remember right, in the original Final Fantasy Legend game on the Game Boy, this is years and years and years ago, there's something very, very similar for, what was it? I think it was once you finally get the Chocobo and get his legs repaired so he can actually run on the water. Yeah, completely open world to you, and you have no clue where to go.
I think good. Alright, I think that one other slight issue, this doesn't touch really on Metroid because you don't have a whole lot of things that other games do in Metroid, and it's not really fueled by those aspects, but RPGs or adventure games, whatever, what have you, when you're left with an open world and you find quests, any quest kind of, at least to me, I mean, you might be able to figure out which quest is a minor quest and a major quest, but when there are quests that seem like they could continue the game, that's kind of the... You gotta be careful. Like, if it's the major quest, you need to make that absolutely clear. Not like, oh hey, do this, and will this advance my game, or will this one, or will this one? I mean, questing's not a bad thing. You usually get stuff out of it. But I just can't say it enough. Help the player. Hint them in the right direction. Give a little kick in the butt. Go that way.
Yeah, as far as RPGs go, Chrono Trigger did that very, very well with the end-game open world stuff. Because at least, you know, you had Specchio and... what was his name? One of the gurus. In every time that would give you hints as to where
the
to
one
go.
at the brink of time?
Yeah. Is it Melchior? I think. I can't remember.
Yes, it was Melchior. Balthazar, I think is his name, was the one for Masamune and... or Muramasa, I don't remember what's the it's called. And I can't remember the one for the epic, but it was definitely Melchior in the time.
Yeah.
But I think we provided enough examples of being lost in games. Like, we provided a lot of examples. So,
most of them RPGs,
but the concepts still kind of transfer over. So if you're building a Super Metroid hack, or a game in general, you have plenty of content to listen to here.
Yeah. I wouldn't say any of us...
Yeah, don't leave the player lost.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say any of us are particularly against, like, big open worlds, per se. I mean, don't get that idea, because Metroid's about exploration and all that. But there are still ways to make the player realize, or at least help the player out, make something a little more obvious than anything else.
Give the player a direction that they can at least go in.
Right. because you can do I'm not a huge fan of really linear hacks, sort of like, I guess you could say like a boss rush, where hey, you have this, now this, and this is how it's always going to be. There's no exploration at all. That's not really a fun Metroid game. Give the player something to look through, but do it smart.
So, I know that kind of looking around is subjective to people's experience in games, exploration and all that, and what you can do, your skill level is dependent on where you can go in games. So Ryan, unfortunately he's not here to talk with us, states that something that's taken him a while is to calibrate difficulty, and that can be kind of tough when you're designing something.
Very much so. I am going to say this right now. You cannot test your own hack.
You can, but you either have to have...
Your opinion is wrong.
It's just really
you have
biased.
to have a really high level of self-awareness and understanding of what other people will do. But at the same time, like MST has said, you can't just test the hack yourself. Or the game even.
Yeah, otherwise you end up with something like Z Factor
Ooh.
1.0.
Ooh, that's a dive.
Sorry, Medicaid.
Well, it was pretty tough. But
Gotta
it
be
was
said.
definitely yeah. It's pretty deep.
There is a valid point to that. I mean, no matter how aware you are of your own skill and compared to, say, I guess the general, I'm making air quotes, you can't see, but the general player would be, compared them to that, no matter how aware you are of that, you're still going to be way off base.
No matter how much you might think that you think like the casual player in that sense, you're not the casual player. Ergo, you're also not that person. So...
Yeah. When you build the game yourself, you already know where everything's
Exactly.
at. So.
yeah.
Knowing the game that you're building is a huge advantage that you would not believe how much it helps. Just play YPR or Escape 2.
But there's one that's really good at keeping me lost. I can't remember it. Besides So Little Time. I can't remember. But there's a good hack out there. Maybe not good, but a good example of a hack out there that definitely, like, once you find it, you're just like, okay, well, now I know it's there. I kind of feel stupid for not knowing it's there, but at the same time, I don't, because I didn't. Sounds kind of redundant, stupid, but
Is that Base Super Zero mission?
um.
Or maybe it was
Phase
Phase
on
on
hack.
Hack. That, yeah.
That's definitely Phase on Hack. Phase on Hack's a great hack. I have nothing against it. Just when you find your way, you're just kind of like, oh, wow, so that's where to go. Okay, I wish I would have known that, but I couldn't have, so okay.
Yes, difficulty, tuning that, adjusting it. It's a thing. You will have to do a lot of that
And
Yeah. Beta test,
yeah,
beta test,
difficulty
beta
is...
test.
with other people. Preferably
Yes.
of very different skill levels.
Yeah, have expert players and new players and your mediocre players.
The wider net you cast, the more,
the more results you'll get.
I guess, general consensus.
Difficulty is not just like a slider with some values set onto it. That might be difficulty for one thing in whatever you're designing, whereas, you know, the grand spectrum of things, you have values for boss health, damages, pickup, weapon item damages, maybe even their durabilities, the location of things, human psychology to take into consideration, the design of your levels, your world, it's just, it's not solid. It's really not. Very malleable.
It's all dependent on how you end up building your hack with those things, and even with your exploration, if you make, for instance, I hate when people do this, but like a required heat run. I mean, if there's a heat room, that should automatically be, I shouldn't be here. Why it's become such a big thing?
Yep.
To require that, and sort of suitless underwater, although that doesn't damage you, it's just annoying. It's, well, don't. Just don't.
Yeah, if there's gonna be suitless underwater, it should be like a small section, at which point, at the end of it, you get gravity suit or whatever helps you through the water easier.
I mean, you could use Oxide as an example for that, because I believe there is one room that is required to do suitless. You can do a little bit more, but it's just this one room and it's very short. And after that, you get to the, I think it's called the murder ship. You do that, you get gravity suit. And no more suitless, just like that.
If you want to see and figure out how much of a... We've kind of touched on it here and there, but we've never really said it so far, is the flow of the game. Which I guess could be like our fourth topic to talk about, or touch on really quick. But if you want to see how much a suitless underwater impacts the game, recommend for you to play through Vanilla Super Metroid. Go ahead, beat Kraid, whatever. But before you go and beat Phantoon, go kill Dragon.
Which is possible.
And yeah, it's you get halfway through Suitless Meridian, you just realize, yeah, it's a cool concept to do the bosses out of order, but this is so. Yeah, it's just so slow that, like, I'm not even entertained by the thought anymore.
Just watch Crash give up and cheat in the first item randomizer.
I mean...
Silence!
Unless you really like such challenges and are really dedicated to them, good for you. That's good. You're a challenge-motivated person. Don't take that in the wrong way. I kind of just call people challenged. You're a motivated individual, but if you're not, then you will definitely understand how flow works right after that, because it's just like MST said in Oxide, 1-2 rooms, it's okay, because you start to realize, all right, I need to go this way, and this is kind of a hint as to what I'm getting and what I'll be doing next. But when it's just nothing but, no.
Looking at you, Cider.
Yes, Cider.
I mean, you can use that as a hint for your exploration too, where, if you drop off into this lake, it's like, well, I can't get back now. But you can easily walk out the lake on the other side, you just can't get back until you get gravity suit. It's that simple. You've locked the player into a smaller area, they have to find this thing here, and then they can continue on with the rest of it.
It's okay.
Which is essentially what Super Metroid does, in many instances.
Yes, quite a few. Casually, once you get to Red Brent Star, you're locked down there.
Yes.
And you're not really able to go into Meridia or the other half of North Air until Gravity Suit, though once you've acquired Power Bombs and Ice Beam, and Grapple and all that, you are kind of like half open world. So
you can get places.
I mean, as long as, putting flow and difficulty together here, as long as you give the player opportunities within the timeline of the game, I guess we could say, or the hack, as long as you give the player an opportunity to stop progress completely and let them go and explore on their own if they so wish to, that's always a great idea as well, because that's kind of helps buffer for the difficulty that you as the designer can't calculate for.
Yeah, you're allowing the player to dictate how they're playing this part of the game, which gives them a more, I would say, a more enjoyable experience for them, because now they're playing how they want to play it.
And that's what makes video games enjoyable. Is when you can do what you want.
Yep.
I had a thought, now I lost it. I'm doing good.
Well,
It happens.
I'm having my senior moment.
while you regain your thought, I'm just going to touch on the flow real quick. I've said it a few times.
Oh, okay. No, go ahead. I know what my thought is.
Okay, yeah, but flow is just, if you're not familiar with it, I'll just quote what MST said here. I'm ranting about we're gonna go back 20 or so minutes here. We're talking about the boss difficulty, and being under equipped and exploration and all that. And MST says, "Make another loop. You'll find 10 more items." And my response was, "There is no loop when progress is forward." And you want to keep playing a game because you keep making progress, not because you keep finding a wall. It's like, oh, can't go here. Let's go some. Oh, can't go here. Can't go here. Can't go here. That's not fun. You're not going anywhere. You're doing the same thing over and over and over again. So flow is like you're moving forward. I don't like. It's a really, to me, kind of a feel kind of thing. Like I just kind of feel it. I know what it is. I guess if you were a ship, a small little boat going down a river, you'd be a lot happier with a really unobstructed river all the way through, as opposed to a point where there's a bunch of rocks that you have to go through. Because obviously it's not fun to go through a whole bunch of rocks when you're on a small little boat going down a river. That's the best analogy I can make.
Unless you happen to like whitewater rafting.
But if you want to, if you want like the best
people.
description of flow, just I guess re-listen to everything I have said, MSD said, Crash has said for like the past 20-30 minutes, and you'll probably find a better explanation there than what I can say in one straight go.
I will say that comment was made more in line with my own hack, because I do not expect people to be able to do a loop in most hacks and find another 10 items easily. Well, maybe not easily, but find 10 items that are just there. But anyway, on with the flow thing, because my idea was sort of along with that. Your room design can really dictate flow. Like there's a lot of just like little hallways or something, or long hallways or whatever, or even big rooms where it's just really cramped level design. You have to morph here, bomb jump across the spike pit here, do whatever, and that really, in small quantities, that is fine. But if you're throwing that in a place where the player is going to go across constantly, over and over again, it's a major highway in the game. Make it open, easy to get through. Otherwise, you're just slowing the player down artificially. And that's...
You can't see me right now, but I'm nodding. Yes.
I am glad you agree with that, Crash. But yeah, it's... If the player is going to be going through there, it's just frustrating to have to... I was like, ugh, I have to morph through here again. It's the 10th time I've been through here. This room takes 3 minutes to get through, and it's just a little hallway. It's like that. Not fun.
Like the Morph Tunnel Crab Room on the, was it East Criteria?
Yes. Oh, that is such a convoluted room.
Yeah, having a room like that as a main pathway of the game, very, very bad.
Like for that, it's a back entrance, exit, whatever. You don't even have to touch it at any point, but it's there if you want to use it.
Here's a really good example, actually, even better than the crab. So, vanilla Super Metroid, first playthrough. From the elevator, you have to go through all those up and down rooms to get all the way to the bubble area. But when the player gets Speed Booster, they can just take this straight path right back to the elevator room. So that's just something to watch out for as well. So like maybe the first trip or two, it'll be a bit of a pain to get through, but then afterwards, once you...
The reward is they get this item or something, then they can take this easy path.
Right.
And a shortcut.
Simple things like that will really, really help. And honestly, I think a lot of hacks and hack makers need to remember that. At the very end, you mentioned, watching other players of various skills.
Yes.
That is a very good thing.
Watch lots of people play games.
Yes. That helps immensely. I've never really watched a person test my hack. I think I did once. But otherwise, he's just done like these streams, just sort of like public streams, whatever. I said, okay, this is fine. Whatever. But I've watched one of my other testers stream parts of the hack, or just play through it from the beginning. And it's like, wow, that's really enlightening. It's like, I did not know players would ever go there. So, I mean, you may not have that option a lot of times, but just generally watching other people play through Super Metroid or whatever.
Yes.
In general, you get a better idea of what players are capable of doing, which is quite surprising.
Yeah, because no two people are going to play the same game. Same game in the same fashion.
Really, I said that because I didn't say it because I specifically see how other people play the game, but more for the aspect of understanding human psychology, which is, I know it's something that is a factor in game design, and just having a general idea of that by literally, if you're designing a side-scrolling Metroid game, don't just watch other side-scroller Metroids or side-scrollers in general. Watch any other genre of game, because if you're anything like me, you'll learn something. If you're anything just like a smart person, you'll learn something from any experience. Especially watching people, you can learn a lot on how certain people think. They might say their thoughts out loud. You can notice these little subtle things they do, like you could pick up on these little things you can add to make things more fluid. Trying to think of a really, really fluid example in the original Super Metroid besides like its invisible path of guidance they give you. But something in the rooms that's kind of really subtle and nice that makes them flow, like, I don't know. But just watch people in general and you'll pick up on these things that you can just, I don't know. I think I've already made my point, so I'll just be quiet.
My last comment was where easy hacks made the comment that easy hacks need to be goofy. Otherwise they're just sort of bleh. Like whatever, it's a
dubbed down of what
hack.
they originally were.
Yeah. I played it, I beat it, it's like that was like, that's nothing. Just because it's easy doesn't mean it's good, or if it's beatable doesn't mean it's good. Can do something memorable with it.
You mean like Airy? I know some people didn't like it, but the big Metroid
Airy was
seems-
interesting.
Airy was okay. It hits a few of my complaints, but still
There were some interesting parts to it.
a neutral hack, in my opinion.
Yeah. The big Metroid scenes in it, though, really.
I remember
got me
finding
off
both
guard.
of them. Actually, no, I found the first one and I freaked out. I found the second one and I was like, oh great, this again.
But yeah, it does something different and unexpected, which, I mean, the hack with no difficulty whatsoever, except for some terrible exploration decisions that were made.
Yeah.
And the physics, but then I guess it wouldn't be called Airy.
So, yeah. But something I know I just played Oxide a couple days ago. The first missile pack's the only missile pack you get. Oh, hey, look, I have 575 missiles now. You're not forgetting that hack. It's an easy hack, but just that, it got you. It's like right there.
Hey, this is my twist on Super Metroid, but here's how you're gonna remember it, is how smaller hacks should be done.
A good hack does not have to be this huge, epic, difficult thing.
Give people
or not even difficult.
Just give it something unique.
You can still get your personality and your flavor, your whatever you want to call it. You can lick the hack however you want. That's terrible, but whatever. I needed to do one bad analogy too.
It was worse than mine.
Starting to take on some Nekoishi.
Actually, you know what? That's probably where that did come from.
That's exactly where that came from.
Thanks.
Shout out to Nekoishi in Cloud IRC and MetCons.
And for helping me in Escape too, because you made the heck enjoyable. But yeah, I mean, you can still do your own hack, but there's a whole lot of different ways to do it. So
yeah, well, as one last word on like game flow, a really good example of a Super Metroid hack that has a pretty open world but still maintains a really good flow for the most part is Ice Metal by Chris, Green Kirby, Venaria, whichever name you want to use. Yeah, the only part in that game that I thought the flow was broken was once you get power bombs, the main path to go to the upper portion of Deep Ice is clear on the other side of the map. It's in Upper West Criteria area. So that's quite a ways to go out of the way. But other than that, it does a very, very excellent job of having an open world at the same time as directing the player on where to go.
that is something to mention actually, is you can lead the player everywhere, basically. It's like, go to the right side of the lane, it's like, oh, there's a missile door. Collect the missiles on the left side, super door, go back to the right, supers, but now there's a grapple pit, go back, get grab.
Yeah, don't run people back and forth. That's just a pain in the ass.
Especially if it's from one side of the planet to the other multiple times.
Multiple times is the worst offender. It was bad enough an area where you only had to do it once at the very end. If you have to do that multiple times, you might as the hack, burn it.
Or have a warp area that the player can access, and they can just warp to the different areas on the hack.
Right. Warp areas, I think, are very effective in large hacks. Consider it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It's very well done in Phazon.
If you have giant submaps and no quick way to get point A to point B, you might want to consider warp areas, hub stations, transit sites, whatever you want to call them. They are useful, and they save time. And as I've already said, nobody likes wasting time.
Yes, keep that in mind.
I guess my last statement, suggestion, whatever, what have you, is if you can, to help the player, to help regain the flow, help the player explore, in addition to giving them little hints, try to subtly train their brain into a state where they will just figure it out. They will just know where to go next, because Super Metroid does it well. Metroid Prime does it well to an extent as well. Yeah, just it's probably not going to be the easiest of things to ever do. But if you can get within the little inner workings and circuitry of the human brain in any way, and make it so that your game somehow teaches them that this is how it works. Not a bad idea.
I would say they're both wrong. Bosses should murder you.
No, they should not.
You should have a decent chance of beating the boss on a casual playthrough.
It should be challenging, but holy crap, it's taking
If
10 times in order to beat this thing.
Take from example MST, me playing SLR. Granted, yes, I was really SLI. Sorry. Granted, I was stubborn, but I didn't really find most of your hidden stuff on the first go around. So it's not completely my fault.
I think the only reason I beat that game was because I had MST on the call and while I was streaming, and he was helping me.
I mean, players should have a chance, in my opinion, but not necessarily a good one if they were too lazy to look.
Yeah, but there's a difference between looking and, oh my god, this item that I need is hidden
With practically no hint in a completely different area of the map.
I'm blaming you.
I'm ending it on that.
Thanks for watching.